Michael Saylor says that the crypto winter is over. That means we're on the verge of prices rising. And that could be very positive. And the billionaire Michael Saylor has also recently revealed how you can retire with 0 point something Bitcoin. All the details are in the video. But okay, I have to be honest. Somehow the market feels strange, as if something big is about to happen. And I already said at the beginning of the year that we need a strong upward movement. Otherwise, the market won't react well. And the last few months have been very, very tough with tariffs and all that stuff. They said April, May, and June would change everything. But nothing happened. And now analysts are saying if you haven't seen it on Twitter that by mid-July, so within the next 2 weeks, Ethereum could climb above $4,000. And of course, Bitcoin could also rise. And a lot of people are already freaking out because that would be a sign of a bullish breakout. But I'm super skeptical. I always try to be open with you guys. A lot of people in the scene hype everything up, but we need to stay realistic. The market isn't the same as it used to be. That's a fact. We've never had a situation like this before, where everything comes together. Tariffs, global issues, and at the same time, these huge amounts of money flowing into crypto. And what's important here, and you really need to understand this, is that you store your crypto, especially your Bitcoin, securely and offline. If you want to do it, click the link in the description below the video to do it quickly. And I'm totally electrified because big companies and institutions are really getting involved now. Just imagine, on a single day, there were over $1 billion flowing into ETFs. And I think BlackRock is supposed to be holding $60 or $70 billion in Bitcoin. Nothing like this has ever happened before. And MicroStrategy is also planning to buy even more Bitcoin. They already have nearly 600,000 Bitcoin and want to buy even more. And Michael Saylor keeps saying this over and over again. But strangely, the Bitcoin price isn't moving. And I think there are two possible explanations which we're going to talk about now. The first possibility is that large companies and organizations are manipulating the market and want to push out regular people like you and me. They deliberately keep prices stable or even let them fall so that most people think it's not worth investing in Bitcoin or Ethereum and so on. As a result, many end up selling their Bitcoin and Ether, and the companies can then buy them up cheaply. A few months ago, for example, we heard that it was mainly small investors who were selling, people like us. Normally, it's precisely these small investors who drive the market. At least that's how it was in the past when prices were rising. And if the big players like BlackRock and MicroStrategy don't want us to be involved, it makes sense that they would steer the market in a way that pushes us out. And the second possibility is that these companies are currently accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible because they believe something big is going to happen in the fall or winter. And they're doing this via OTC, that is over the counter, so not through crypto exchanges. And one thing is a fact. We are currently stuck in a battle of giants. The market should actually be rising, but it isn't because these big companies don't want us to be involved. And that's a fact. They see how the financial system is developing, and I believe the most likely scenario is that we are currently witnessing ourselves being pushed out of the market. For years, we've been hearing that the Bitcoin market is increasingly being taken over by companies and institutions. Think, for example, of Coinbase or big banks, BlackRock, MicroStrategy, and so on. We small investors are simply no longer really part of the whole plan. That could also explain why prices aren't rising, even though so much is being bought. And some say that the cycles are different this time, and you can understand that because something really does feel strange right now. On Twitter, you can see people's anger and frustration. Many are annoyed because they feel like they're no longer allowed to participate. It's really frustrating, but maybe we have to get used to this new reality. The Bitcoin market just isn't what it used to be anymore. The big players like BlackRock, MicroStrategy, and many others are now calling the shots, and we're kind of left out, just like we can see in the stock market. And I have the feeling that something strange is going on in the market right now. I don't think the market is bad or anything, but there's a major shift happening. Do you know what I mean by that? Everything is being influenced by these news stories about tariffs, interest rates, and debt problems all over the world. And now, according to the charts, July 15th is supposed to be an important day. A lot of people are saying that Ether will rise to $4,000 per Ether and Bitcoin to $150,000 per Bitcoin. Let's see if that actually happens. If not, then I think the market will continue to move sideways or maybe even go down. And honestly, it doesn't make any sense to pour hundreds of billions of dollars into something like Bitcoin and then have the price fall or just move sideways. That's just totally crazy. And now imagine you buy Bitcoin, whether it's a whole Bitcoin or just a few Satoshis, and that's like having invested in New York City 250 years ago. And we'll talk in a moment about how much Bitcoin you need to be among the top 1% in the future. And if we look at the Pareto principle, which says that 20% of people own 80% of the wealth hand, that's been true for thousands of years, And if we assume that 16 million Bitcoin are available for sale, then 80 million people could each hold 0.06 Bitcoin to be among the top 1%. And worldwide, there are only 58 million millionaires among 8 billion people. 1% of 8 billion is 80 million. And if we now assume that only 4 million Bitcoin are available, that is, the ones being referred to and are liquid, then 80 million people could each own 0.015 Bitcoin to be among the top 1%. And what's fascinating about the whole thing is that in the last 5 years, 10 million Bitcoins have not been moved despite wild price fluctuations. Many people hold Bitcoin for the long term, and Michael Saylor owns nearly 600,000 Bitcoin and says he won't sell these Bitcoin for 100 years. And in addition, there's an even more optimistic calculation which we'll talk about in a moment. In short, with just a small amount of Bitcoin, you could be at the very top in the future. With just a little Bitcoin, you can belong to a small group in the future because only about 80 million people will ever own that much Bitcoin. With $1,500 or euros, that's enough to put you in the new class of millionaires and in the top 1%, at least over the next 5, 10, 15 or 20 years. We're not just talking about how little money, in my opinion, you'll need in the future to be among the top 1% under a Bitcoin standard. We're also talking about the specific plan you can follow to accumulate this amount of Bitcoin today. It doesn't matter where you live, whether it's in Asia, Africa, or one of the poorest countries in the world. Even if you only earn $2,000 to $3,000 a year, like many people around the world, the plan we're about to discuss will surprise you. This strategy of regular purchases that I'm going to show you will blow your mind. But first, let's make it clear how little Bitcoin it will take in the future to put you in an exclusive group. And I believe that millions of people won't reach this goal because they'll make mistakes, because they won't take action, because they won't get involved. And many people watch videos like this one and like to think, I have Bitcoin, I'm safe, and believe they're automatically in the top 1%. But many are making big mistakes today, like not securing their Bitcoin themselves, not self-custodying, and leaving it on centralized exchanges. Some hold Bitcoin ETFs like the one from BlackRock or have thousands, maybe millions, invested in ETF products or retirement accounts. And even worse, some leave their Bitcoin on exchanges like Coinbase, for example, and think if my $10,000 in Bitcoin puts me in the top 1%, Coinbase will give me the keys. Mistakes like these can ruin everything. You could lose all your Bitcoin because of this. In particular, we've seen time and again in the past how centralized exchanges have been hacked and the money was just gone. That's why it's so important to store your Bitcoin, your crypto offline. If you want to do that, click the link in the description below the video. Of course, it's great to know how much your Bitcoin could be worth in the future, but that's useless if you don't own enough, don't store your Bitcoin securely, or can't access them so that Bitcoin can last for generations. That's why I tell you, 0% Bitcoin in your portfolio is too little, and 2% probably isn't enough either. You most likely need to invest more money in Bitcoin to have a larger share in your portfolio. Find the right amount for you and your family. This is not financial advice. What's important is that you engage with the topic and learn more about crypto and Bitcoin. Because as we know, Larry Fink, from BlackRock assumes that if more large institutions invest their money in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price could rise to as much as $700,000 per Bitcoin. That's absolutely insane. What's important is that you should never store Bitcoin on an exchange or in your mobile wallet that's connected to the internet. And please, don't trust your Bitcoin to BlackRock or their Bitcoin ETFs. Instead, get yourself a dedicated hardware wallet. Any kind will do. The main thing is that it's offline. You'll find the link for that in the description below the video. Secure this wallet so that it lasts for generations. Don't write your 12 or 24 word backup phrase on paper. That's too risky. Instead, use robust solutions like titanium plates, for example. These can even withstand fire, floods, or storm. In case your house or apartment ever burns down, your backup will remain safe. Why is this important now? Because Bitcoin is becoming increasingly scarce. There are only about 2 million Bitcoin left on the exchanges. Just 4 billionaires could buy up this remaining amount, as Michael Saylor demonstrated with his 600,000 coins. Companies like MicroStrategy show those who hold Bitcoin win in the long run. Their stock price has risen dramatically since they started investing in Bitcoin. Its value rose from the 4,000th place among companies to the top 10 in just 5 years. And MicroStrategy is attracting more and more money, especially as it is gradually being included in more and more indices. And that means as more and more corporations and countries use Bitcoin as a reserve, soon there could be only 1 million coins left for regular investors, maybe even less. Then just 0.00375 Bitcoin would be enough to potentially belong to the new class of millionaires. And here's how you can do it yourself, even with a small budget. Just save $3 a week in Bitcoin using the dollar cost averaging strategy. I know that sounds like very little, but even during the week period since 2021, you would have accumulated about $470 in Bitcoin over 3 years. More than enough. Especially if we can believe the predictions that Bitcoin will rise to $1 million per Bitcoin, to $5 million, to $10 million, to $21 million per Bitcoin. If we reach that, and there are even other predictions that Bitcoin could perhaps rise to $100 million per Bitcoin, which we can't even imagine right now, but just imagine if more and more companies invest in Bitcoin, if pension funds, retirement funds, and so on, sovereign wealth funds invest in Bitcoin. What happens to the price then when there is only a limited supply of 21 million units? And of course, we must not forget, there are 8 billion people on the planet, and only a fraction of them have invested in Bitcoin so far. What if all of them enter the crypto market into Bitcoin and want to invest their money there? What will happen to the price of Bitcoin then? What do you think? Where will the price of Bitcoin be in 5 years, in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? If after 15 years, if after 16 years, the price of Bitcoin has risen from under 1 cent to over $100,000 per Bitcoin, what will happen in the next 16 years? You see, we need to hurry. Because at the current buying rate we're seeing right now from BlackRock, MicroStrategy and others, the exchanges could already be empty in 350 days. So time is running out while billionaires and large corporations are striking and buying more and more Bitcoin. It's important that you take action now. Click on the link in the description.